What joy is. An overview. The definition. Joy is one of those words that everyone uses and almost no one defines. Ask 100 people what joy is, and you will receive 100 answers that range from the specific, the feeling I get when my dog runs to greet me, to the philosophical, a state of being aligned with something larger than yourself, to the almost embarrassed. Just happy, I suppose. The difficulty is not that people don't know joy. Nearly everyone has felt it. The difficulty is that joy is so fundamentally a lived experience, so immediate and particular and bodily, that translating it into language feels like trying to catch light in a jar. And yet that is precisely what this book attempts to do, because the failure to define joy clearly has real consequences. It means we confuse it with related but distinct states. It means we chase the wrong things. It means that entire psychological and cultural systems have been built on the assumption that joy is simply the presence of pleasure or the absence of pain, and those assumptions have led us badly astray. Let us begin, then, with what joy is not. Joy is not happiness, though the two are related. Happiness, in the way it is most commonly used in contemporary Western culture, tends to refer to a general life evaluation, a sense that one's life is going well, that things are satisfactory, that the balance of good and bad is tilted favorably. It is a relatively stable, cognitive appraisal. Joy, by contrast, is an acute, embodied, present-moment experience. It arrives. It blooms. It is felt as much in the body as in the mind, in the chest, in the limbs, in the face. While happiness can be a background hum, joy is a foreground flare. They can coexist, but they are not the same thing, and a person can experience profound joy in a moment while being, by broader life evaluation standards, unhappy. The grieving father who laughs helplessly at a story about his late wife knows this intimately. Joy is also not pleasure, though pleasure is one of its components in some of its forms. Pleasure is the good feeling that comes from sensory satisfaction, a delicious meal, a warm bath, physical touch. It is immediate, body-centered, and typically brief. Pleasure depends on stimulation. Remove the stimulus and the pleasure dissolves. Joy has a different quality. It can arise in the complete absence of sensory pleasure, in silence, in stillness, in the moment of understanding something profound, in the act of witnessing something beautiful that involves no physical gratification whatsoever. Joy also has a quality of expansion that pleasure does not share. Pleasure tends to draw attention inward, toward the body and the immediate experience. Joy tends to open outward, toward connection, toward the world, toward other people, toward something that feels larger than the self. Distinguishing joy from its neighbors. Contentment is closer to joy, but still distinct. Contentment is a quiet, settled state, the experience of sufficiency, of enoughness. It is peaceful and pleasant but characteristically still. Joy, even in its quieter expressions, has a quality of aliveness to it, a kind of luminous vitality that contentment does not always carry. Excitement, on the other hand, shares joy's energy but lacks its depth. Excitement is energized anticipation, the future-oriented charge of something about to happen. It is associated with the dopamine system's anticipatory firing, more on this in Chapter 2, and it carries a quality of tension, of suspension, of incompleteness. Joy, by contrast, is characteristically present tense. It lives in the moment of arrival, the moment of being, the moment of full contact with what is actually happening right now. Researchers in the field of affective science, the scientific study of emotion, have worked for decades to produce reliable taxonomies of positive emotional states. One of the most influential is the work of Dacher Keltner and Jonathan Haidt, who identified awe as a distinct positive emotion characterized by vastness and the need for cognitive accommodation. More recently, researchers including Alan Cowan and Keltner have used machine learning and cross-cultural data to identify at least 27 distinct emotional states that human beings regularly experience. Within that landscape, joy appears as a cluster rather than a point, a family of related but distinct experiences that range from simple delight to transcendent bliss, all sharing a core signature of positive activation, presence, and openness. What makes joy particularly interesting, and what makes it worthy of a book of this scope, is that it functions simultaneously on multiple levels. Biologically, joy is a reward signal and a regulator of the nervous system. Psychologically, it is a broadening agent that expands cognition, creativity, and social connection. Socially, it is a bonding mechanism and a signal of safety and trust. Evolutionarily, it is a marker of adaptive success, of finding food, making friends, solving problems, creating, and connecting. Spiritually, it is, for many traditions and many individuals, the deepest available evidence that life is meaningful and that the self is in right relation with the world. No other positive emotion operates simultaneously across all of these dimensions with quite the same range and depth. Joy across cultures. The experience of joy appears to be universal. There is no known human culture in which joy is absent, and the facial expressions associated with genuine joy, the Duchenne smile, described in detail in Chapter 6, are recognized across cultures with near-perfect accuracy, even in cultures that have had no contact with Western media. And yet the triggers, the expressions, the social rules, and the cultural valuation of joy vary enormously across human societies. In many East Asian cultures, for instance, the public expression of intense joy is tempered by norms of social harmony and the suppression of emotions that might appear to elevate the individual above the group. In some indigenous cultures, joy is experienced as a collective rather than individual state. It belongs to the community, arises in ritual and shared experience, and is inseparable from the sense of being in right relation with the land, the ancestors, and the living world. In contemporary Western culture, and particularly in the United States, joy has been heavily mediated by consumer culture. The cultural script suggests that joy is something you acquire through the right experiences, the right purchases, the right relationships, the right achievements. This framing produces a fundamentally instrumental relationship with joy, in which it is always something to be gotten rather than something to be cultivated, noticed, or allowed. One of the central arguments of this book is that this framing is not only psychologically inaccurate but neurobiologically backwards. Joy, as we shall see, is far more responsive to attention, presence, and relationship than it is to acquisition and achievement. What this book will do. The chapters that follow examine joy from every angle available to serious inquiry. We begin with the neurobiology, the brain structures and systems that generate joyful experience. We move to the chemistry, the specific molecules involved and what they actually do. We explore brainwave states, psychological theories, behavioral expressions, spiritual dimensions, and the mechanisms by which joy is generated and sustained. We look at what triggers it, at all the ways it can be misunderstood and suppressed, at what its long-term presence or absence does to a human life. We examine it in real-world moments, vivid and particular, and we offer scientifically grounded, practically applicable guidance on cultivating it. Throughout, the animating conviction is this: joy is not a luxury. It is not a reward for those lucky enough to have easy lives. It is a fundamental biological endowment, a psychological capacity, and a spiritual orientation that every human being possesses and that every human being deserves to understand.